I would like to thank everyone for attending this webinar on project management tailoring methods. I realize your time is valuable and I appreciate your attendance here. Tailoring is an important topic and one that is often misunderstood since there's not really a single process description on how to tailor all projects. So I'll be presenting some ideas today as to how you might approach tailoring based on my experience running projects that range from the tens of Ks to multi-million-dollar international projects. During this webinar, we're going to go over a few areas that I think will help get you focused on this tailoring question. I'd like to start by briefly going over the outline of what will be reviewed today. So, as a way to set the stage, I'm going to present the underlying principles and components that make up tailoring. We'll also look at the enabling application of disciplined tailoring approaches, and then we'll transition into the importance of the appropriate application of tailoring. In order to tailor effectively, we really need to define the what, why, when, where, and how for each project. When we're talking about what, we really want to know what we're defining as tailoring. I think people have different ideas of what tailoring is to them, and a lot of people think tailoring is just eliminating steps or eliminating activities. And so we really need to understand and come to a common definition of what we think tailoring is. We also need to understand why tailoring is important for project success. And we need to know what factors influence your tailoring choices. So when do you actually apply tailoring? We're also going to go over where you need to apply tailoring. Within the project life cycle, there are places that you will want to tailor, and there will be places that you will not want to tailor. So we'll talk about making those tailoring decisions in the life cycle, and as well as how do we actually make those, which is what you're probably most interested in is, okay, most of us have an idea of what we think tailoring is, but before we talk about how you might want to make those decisions and apply that tailoring, we have to come to a common understanding of what the other factors are. So then at the end, we'll also talk about other considerations, like what happens when you don't tailor effectively. And then I'll summarize it. So let's see, as we move on here, we'll talk about let's start with what we're talking about, the definition of tailoring. Now, tailoring is a standard process within the PMI discipline. So the project management body of knowledge handbook actually has a specific description in there for tailoring. And that description is the act of carefully selecting process and related inputs and outputs to determine a subset of specific processes that will be included with the project's overall management approach. So it doesn't specifically say those things that you're not going to do. It says that you're going to carefully select those processes and each input and output to make sure that you have the appropriate processes. The PMBOK also specifically states that the project management processes apply globally and across industry groups. So good practice means there is general agreement that the application of project management processes has been shown to enhance the chances of success over a wide range of projects. So good practice does not mean that the knowledge, skills, and processes described should always be applied uniformly on all projects. And I'm reading this directly from the PMBOK. So what they say is that for any given project, the project manager, in collaboration with the project team, is always responsible for determining which processes are appropriate and the appropriate degree of rigor for each process. Now, in my own words, that is because they, the project manager, fully understands the interrelated elements of the project management processes and can make tailoring decisions that will not inadvertently impact the project. So it's very difficult to modify a process that you don't fully understand and fully understand how it interrelates to all the other processes. And if you do so, you do so at your own peril, because if you don't understand what it's interconnected with, then you don't really know how you're affecting it by not doing something. So again, from the PMBOK, the project managers and their teams should carefully address each process and its inputs and outputs and determine which are applicable to the project they are working on. The effort is known as tailoring. And I will once again reiterate that every project is going to be different, and every project you're going to carefully look at what project management processes need to be tailored in that. One size does not fit all. Now, tailoring is important for project success. So managers use tailoring to ensure that the right amount of project management is applied to each project so that it is not a burden on the project. But in particular, project managers are looking to use the appropriately applied processes to optimize project performance. So appropriately applied PM processes will be effective in reduction of risk and in the assurance that stakeholders' needs are being fulfilled. So keep in mind that in order to tailor effectively, a project manager must have a thorough understanding of the process groups and knowledge areas of the PM discipline. That knowledge, along with the practical experience managing projects, will provide a solid basis for effective tailoring. And I recommend that PMs with less experience in project management of the kinds of projects that you're going to be evaluating, that the PMs with the less experience should defer to the tailoring recommendations of a more experienced PM. This might mean if you're working in an organization by yourself, you might want to touch base with PMs in your network to just run through your ideas on how a project might be tailored, just to get a sanity check and to make sure that you're making the right tailoring decisions. So when we think about tailoring for projects, a significant driver of process scaling will be the controls that are required. I use this simple model to sort of demonstrate the types of controls and when you might find them being used in a project. So walking around sort of the outside, you can see the overall project outcomes might be something such as a new concept or an idea, a new revised process, or a new product or service. And the types of controls that you're going to use for each one of those intended project outcomes is going to scale up. You're going to want to use more controls, typically, for development of a new product or a service than you would for a new concept or idea. As you move across the life cycle phase from research to development to production and control or construction, your controls typically also go up. We're going to talk a little bit more about life cycle in a few slides. And then your approach, typically driven by your stakeholders or your organization or both, can be formal or informal. And of course, the more formal approach you're going to use, the more controls you're going to use. And then there is a level of control where you're light, medium, or strong heavy, where as you need more controls, you just have these additive controls such as reviews, governance, technical readiness level analysis, trend variance analysis, test verification and validation, and quality, more strictly defined, more formal in your approach. So if a project is research-focused, the level of PM process rigor and controls needed may be much lighter than a production or construction project. And as a project outcome is aligned to providing a new product or service, like when you're moving through an innovation project towards production, the more controls will typically be used because in many cases more resources are being applied to that. The outcomes are more of an imperative that you reach your outcomes in a positive way.